Hello people, this is Aryan from Code Grind, and in today's video we'll be creating a web page based on glassmorphism. So two videos before we talked about what is glassmorphism and how you can give that effect to various elements of a web page. But now in this video we are gonna actually create a web page with different components completely based on glassmorphism, and you're gonna learn how you can make them using HTML and CSS only. So let's get straight into it. So as you can see here, I have this web page, and this is the one which we'll be creating in today's video, and it has got various components which are completely based on glassmorphism. So if you have watched the previous video, then you must remember that glassmorphism is nothing but a colorful background with a frosted glass kind of feeling. So this we have here is a colorful background, and above this we have this container which gives us the frosted glass effect with the help of backdrop filters. So the backdrop filter which we use is actually the blur effect, and we are just increasing the blur and opacity of the different elements to give them different kind of glassmorphism effects. Now if you see over here, we have this navbar, we have this container, and these both are completely different from each other. Let's not say that they are completely different, but they are different, and they give different kind of a visual effect to the user. And over here you will also find that on hovering over this any of the navigation bar items, you will find this animation, and over here we have got this sign in button, and this little thing over here which is the scroll bar, which is also based on glassmorphism. You can see the track is a bit lighter, and this scroll bar thumb is a bit darker. Now if you haven't watched in my video on how to create a custom scroll bar, then you can go watch it. I'll give a link in the description, and you can also click on the link above. So I've already added some dummy text so that you can see this scroll bar in working. So this is the scroll bar, this is a navbar, these are the buttons, and this is the whole container with this colorful background. So this is what we'll be creating in today's video. So let's start with the coding part now. So over here I've got this basic layout ready. I've linked an external CSS file in which we'll be doing all the styling part. Now let's get started with our content. So first of all, we'll have a div with a class of container. Then inside it we'll have two different components. The first one is the navbar, and the second one is the body. So navbar, and then the second one will be body. Okay, so the navbar is divided into three parts. The left one was the logo, the middle part was the links, and the right part was the sign in button. So we'll divide it into three parts further: left, center, and then the right one. Okay, so in the left one we'll have this image. So this is my channel image, which is logo transparent.png. Let's give it an alt. Always give an alternative text to your image. It makes your website SEO friendly, so yeah, do that. And in the center now we'll have three different links. So first div, the first one will be blog, the second one can be about, and the last one can be the contact link. Okay, so these are the three links which we want. Then in the at the right we'll want just a button with the type is equal to button. Okay, and the text will be sign in. Okay, so our navbar is ready now. Now we'll move on to our body. In the body we'll have our content. Okay, so in our content, the first thing which we want is the heading. So heading, and the heading will be like code grind, a break tag. So let's get straight into it, which is like a tagline for my channel. So let's get straight into it. This will be our heading, and now we'll have our paragraph, which is the text. Let's have some dummy text over here. So lorem 100 will give us the lorem ipsum dummy text of 100 words. Yeah, this is more than enough now. And then we'll have our button. Okay, so button type is equal to button view post. So these will be our three elements for the left side of the content, and as you might remember, at the right side of the content we had that image. So for that image we'll have img. Actually, let's do this outside this div. So we'll create another div with the class of image and store this image inside here. So youtube.png, I actually downloaded it from a website called undraw.co, from where you can download free vector images like this one. So I downloaded it from there. You can also download svg images. So yeah, let's give it a text like right image, anything. You can give it anything. It should be relatable to whatever you are using it for. Okay, so now let's move on to our Chrome. So over here we have got the content ready. Actually my logo is quite big, so we'll have to scroll down. So over here, as you can see, we have all our content ready. The center, the logo, the center navbar, the right navbar, and the content over here with this youtube.png image. So this is it for the HTML part. Now let's move on to the CSS part. Okay, so the first thing which we always do is select everything using the asterisk selector and remove all the unnecessary margins, paddings, and change the box sizing to border box. So this is a must, and you should always do this before starting your CSS part. And the next thing will be changing the font family to Poppins. So it's a very good font. I have been using it for a very long time, and I'll give a link in the description from where you can download this font for your systems. And now let's change the color of the text to white. Okay, so now the next thing is we'll select our body and change the background image. So we'll select the background image. So now if you see, we don't have any background image over here. We just have the logo and the content over here at the bottom. So we want a background image for our body, so we'll give it, the URL for it is bg.jpg. I have actually downloaded this image. So over here you can see this. I just downloaded it from Google. And now we'll need to provide some more properties. So like right now if you see it, you'll get this image and it doesn't cover up the entire window and it repeats itself. So it ends over here somewhere and it started repeating itself from there, and it keeps on doing this until unless we provide it with some other properties, such as background repeat is equal to no repeat and background size is equal to covered, so that it covers up the entire window. Okay, so now it's done. We are done doing this one. Now we'll select our container. So the container holds the navbar as well as the body, and we'll give it a height of 90 vh, width of 80 vw. So this container is basically the middle part which had that glass morphism effect, and it was holding everything. Now I'll give it a margin, so a top and bottom margin of 5 vh and auto, so this will center align. Left and right auto means the div will be center aligned. We'll also give it some padding such as 002m. So the 002m means top of 0, left and right of 0, and the bottom of 2m. Then we'll give it, actually let's see how this looks right now. So over here you won't be able to see any changes, and that's because the logo size is too big. So let's first decrease that logo size before doing anything else. So the logo was inside this left div. We'll select it, select the image, and let's give it a height of 50 pixels. Okay, so all of this is now settled, and yeah, let's select this image as well and reduce its size. So that image was actually stored in the .image div. So we'll select the .image div, select the image inside that div, and give it a height of 400 pixels. Okay, so this image is also reduced. Now let's go back to our container, and over here we will give it a background color. So the background color will be white, but I have chosen RGBA, and the reason behind that is we want to provide it with some opacity as well. So this alpha stands for opacity, and the opacity which I'll be going with is 0.1. You are completely free to choose any opacity of your choice. Now let's go back here, and you see we have formed this container of height 90 vh and width 80 vw with the top margin of 5 vh and the left and right of auto. So this is sorted. Now we need to provide it with some more properties, just some more, like the backdrop filter which I told you about. The background filter will be of 20 pixels. It will provide it with a blur of 20 pixels, and now it gives it a perfect frosted glass effect. Now we'll give it a border radius. So the border radius which we'll be going with is 20 pixels, and at last an overflow of auto, so that if the content exceeds the length or the width of the container, it will provide it with a scroll bar instead of what is happening right now. Like if you see, this image is exceeding the length of this div, but after we provide it with an overflow of auto, it will provide it with this scroll bar. Now let's design our scroll bar as well, which is a very important thing. Otherwise it will just ruin the glass morphism effect. As you can see over here, it's just not matching the theme. So we'll select the container, and I'll suggest, if you haven't watched my custom scroll bar video, you should go watch this, because I'll not be explaining in detail what I'll be doing. I'll just be writing the code, expecting that you already know something. So we'll select this WebKit scroll bar. It will select the entire scroll bar, give it an height of 10 pixels and a width of 10 pixels as well. The width is for this scroll bar, which is at the right. Actually, let's remove this for now. I'll explain it. So the width is for this one and the height is for the bottom scroll bar, which comes over here. Okay, now we'll select some more things like container, WebKit scroll bar track. So this will select the whole track of the scroll bar and will give it a background color of RGB again 255, 255, 255, and now the alpha which we'll be choosing is 0.2, so a bit more opacity, and we'll give it a border radius of 20 pixels as well. Now let's just copy this, paste it, and now instead of the track we'll select the thumb. So this will indicate the active part of the container, and we'll give it an opacity of 0.3. The border radius will be the same. Now let's see. Okay, so we have got this ready, but I also want to add one more effect, so that when we hover over this thumb, the color should darken a bit, so that that means the opacity should increase a bit. So thumb, hover, remove this property because it's already there, and increase it to 0.4. Now when I hover over the scroll bar, its opacity increases. So yeah, the scroll bar is ready, and this is it for the scroll bar. Now let's select our navbar. So for the navbar, we'll select the navbar, the div with the class of navbar, and give it a display of flex so that everything is aligned in a row like this. We have got the left, the center, and the right ones. We'll give them a justify content of space between. So now they actually are at their respective places. Now we'll also give them an align items of center. Okay, so everything is aligned perfectly now. Now let's give it a background color. So background color of, let's say, we'll go with RGB 255, 255, 255 again. This is for white, and the last one, as I told you, is for opacity. We'll go with a bit more opacity than what we have in the container, so 0.3, and it has provided it with that opacity. Now we'll select the padding, so top and bottom of 0.5 m and left and right of 2 m. Okay, so this is sorted. Now we need to change the styling of this center and this sign in button. So for the logo, we have already done it right. Now we'll go with the center and give it a display of grid, a grid template columns of a repeat 3, 1 fr. So this should be repeat 3, 1 fr. This actually will arrange them in 3 columns with equal length. So you see, this is done right, and we'll also give them a bit of a gapping of, let's say, 1.5 m. Okay, so these are our links and they are completely ready. Now we'll select each and every particular link. So as you might remember, when I hover over this in the preview, so you can just go back to the start of the video, and you might notice that when hovering over any of the links, it gave the links that underline animation. And now to provide that, we'll select each and every div. So center div, this will select every link. We'll give them a position of relative so that we can position the underline in reference with this div. A cursor of pointer so that it looks clickable. A width of min content so that any extra width is just removed. Now we'll go work with the after pseudo element of this div. So the first thing which you should always do when you're working with pseudo elements like after or before is you should give them a content, and this content property is a must. Without it you won't see any changes. Now the next one is giving it a position of absolute. Then we'll give it a background color of white because we want that underline to be of white color. You can obviously choose any color which you want. Then we'll give it a height of 3 pixels and a width of, let's say, 100%. Now let's see how it looks. So you see, we have got these underlines, but we need to position them according to the links, the text. So for that we'll go with a bottom of minus 0.4 m. It will position it along the y-axis, and then we'll give it a left of 50% and a translate x of minus 50%. It will place it perfectly at the center of the x-axis. Okay, this is done. But now if you notice, This underline has very sharp edges, all these three underlines, but we need to make them curvy at the top corners. So for that we'll go with the border top left radius and give it a radius of 5 pixels, and same with the border top right radius and give it 5 pixels as well. And now let's give it a transition so that it will give that animation a smooth effect of 0.3 seconds all these. Now you see it has got that curve. But now at the starting we don't want this to have these underlines. So what we'll do is change this width to 0. Okay, and now whenever we hover over any of these, we want that underline to appear. So for that we want the center div. So whenever we hover over any of these divs, this should be hover, the after elements width should increase to 100%. Let's see now. So it doesn't have any width right now, but when I hover it gets that width. So this is working perfectly. But now one thing which is missing is that we want this block to have that underline already without hovering. So for that let's go to the HTML and give this block a class of active. So this will show that we are currently in the block section, and over here we'll select the div with the class of active and change its after elements width to 100%. Okay, so the block now has now already has this underline, and other elements will get this underline whenever we hover over them. So the navbar is almost complete. We just need to change the styling of this button a bit and it will be completed completely. So for that we'll select our right, and actually let's not the right, the button in the right inside the div with the class of right. Give it a background of, let's say, none, then a border of 1 pixel solid white, padding of 7 pixels and 30 pixels. I've already tested these values and I'm just noting them down. A border radius, you can always go experimenting and do anything of your choice. We don't want the outline, a cursor of pointer, and a transition, so that when we provide it with any hovering effect it will be very smooth. Okay, now the button looks good, but we need to provide it with some hover effect. So for that, right button hover. Now over here we'll change its background color to white and this color to hash 00BFA6. So this is the color which I have tested and I liked it in this button. Okay, so this is fine, perfectly fine. Now let's start working and with our body. So we'll select the body tag over here and then give it a margin top of 5em. So now it has got this spacing, and now we need to place the content and the image side by side, not top and bottom. So for that we'll give it a display of flex again. Yeah, it's perfectly placed now, and then we'll also give it an align items of center. Okay, now after this we'll give it a padding 0 for top and bottom and 2em for left and right. So now this content is looking pretty good than what it was looking like before. Now we'll select our content div and we'll select the heading and increase its font size to 2em and the font weight to 600. Okay, so now the heading looks much better, and now we'll select our text as well. So content dot text, margin top of 1em, font size of 0.9em, and text align of justify, so that it will look much prettier. Now let's design our button. So for that we'll select our content and then inside that the button tag, and now we'll give it a margin top of 1.5em, background color of hash 00BFA6, which we have used earlier with the hovering effect of the navbar button. Then we'll give it a padding of 10 pixels from top and bottom and 45 pixels from left and right. A color of white. Now I keep saying that you can keep experimenting on your own, it's completely up to you. A border radius of 3 pixels, outline of none, and cursor of pointer. Okay, now let's have a look at our button. So it's looking much better now. So we are done with the left side of the content, and we are also done with the right side, as we have already provided it with this height of 400 pixel at the starting of the styling part. Now we are done with the desktop view of this web page, and how can I leave the mobile view? It's a very important thing to do. So now let's go to the mobile view. You can actually do this by pressing the F12 button on your Chrome browser, or by clicking right click and going to this inspect element option, and it will open up this window. Over here you can click on this mobile toggle device toolbar, and it will give you the device view of various devices. You can just increase the size, and you can write your code according to whatever size you're working on. So now for the mobile view, we'll design our content. So for that, over here we'll be working with our media queries. So media only screen and max width 992 pixels. So max width 992 pixel basically means is that whenever the width will be less than this one, the code which we write inside the curly braces will work. So whenever the width is less than 992 pixels, it will look into the code which we'll be writing now. So now we'll have the container, and we'll give it a height of 95 vh, increasing it by 5 vh. We'll increase the width by 10 vw, and now we want the margins to be 2.5 vh from top and bottom, and auto from left and right. And also we'll decrease the padding. Okay, so padding will be 001 So now you see it's covering up most of the window. And for the mobile view, this should be the perfect approach, that you should cover as much space as you can, leaving very little amount of white space. Okay, now after the container, we'll select our navbar, and now instead of going with the row display flex, we'll give it a display flex direction of column. I'm not designing this navbar much, but you can design it as you want. I'm not gonna design it much. And let's give it a padding bottom of 1 Okay, now we'll select our center and the right divs, and give them a margin top of 1.5 to provide them with a bit of spacing. Okay, so this is a navbar. I know it doesn't look that good, and you can also go visit some of my videos. I have a whole playlist on designing navbars. You can go that and design a navbar for this glassmorphism web page. I'll give a link in the description, and you can also do whatever you want, but I'm just going to go with this simple effect. Now we need to design this body, because this doesn't look good at all. So for the body designing, we'll select our div with the class of body, and first of all, the thing which you need to do is give it a margin top of 0 and a flex direction of column reverse. So column reverse basically means that the div which is written afterwards will appear first, and the one which is written before will appear afterwards. So that too in a column direction. So column reverse. So now the image appears first and the text appears after that. So now after that, we'll have a justify content of center, and a padding of top and bottom 0 and left and right of 1 So decreasing the padding. Now we'll select our image, and we'll give it a width of 100%. Now instead of fixing the height, we'll fix the width to 100% and make it height to auto. Yeah, so the image is now auto sized. So this is how you can create a web page based on glassmorphism. I told you how you can create these scroll bars, how you can create this nav bar, the buttons, and what basically glassmorphism is. It is completely dependent upon what kind of a background you choose. You can also work on dark theme glassmorphism effects. I'll give a link to a few images from where you can learn how to give these effects. You can get some creative ideas. And now this was it for this video. I hope you like this one, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more such amazing videos on CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And thank you for watching.